It is not intelligent for 54 of us to go and sit before one gentleman.
Is it necessary for 50 leaders to travel to one country to meet just one leader? And is it acceptable for the host nation to treat them like children, herding them into buses and shuttling them around? African leaders are facing disrespect from their former colonial rulers, yet surprisingly, no one seems to speak up. Kenya's President Ruto had previously criticized European nations for mistreating African leaders, but this time, he and 53 other African leaders went to meet Italy's Prime Minister. Why did they tolerate this disrespect once again? Let's find out. In our modern world, African leaders are still grappling with issues that they faced decades ago under colonial rule. It's like being caught in a tug-of-war between maintaining a strong presence on the world stage and bending backward to meet the expectations of the old colonial powers. The Italy-Africa Summit in 2024, held in Rome, has shed light on the complex dynamics of power. It reveals how some leaders are willing to compromise their dignity. Let's examine it. The Italy-Africa Summit is not just an ordinary gathering. It's where influential global figures come together to discuss business and make deals. However, for African leaders, it carries more weight than just an invitation to an extravagant dinner. It's a test. A test of how much they are willing to conform or stand their ground. These leaders find themselves walking a tightrope. On one side, there is the desire to assert themselves, proudly wave their flags, and show that Africa is more than just a safari stereotype. On the other side, there is the pressure, the heavy burden of history and echoes of colonialism that still linger. The Italy-Africa Summit acts as a magnifying glass, exposing the choices made by these leaders. Unfortunately, it seems that these leaders have forgotten their backbone. They are willing to stoop low, hoping to catch the scraps falling from the table of their former colonial masters. It's as if they have disregarded their primary duty, which is to serve their people, rather than cozying up to remnants of the colonial era. The consequences of bending too low are evident. It's a slippery slope that risks compromising what makes Africa unique, its rich cultures, diverse landscapes, and resilient spirit. These should not be traded for mere pats on the back from those who once sought to suppress and control. The Italy-Africa Summit in 2024 should serve as a wake-up call. African leaders, it's time to stand tall. Not just physically, but metaphorically. It's time to declare that Africa is here and that its identity will not be compromised for a seat at someone else's table. It's about finding the right balance between asserting authority and maintaining dignity on the global stage. It's not a playground where one mindlessly follows the rules set by others. It's a stage where every nation, big or small, should be treated equally. African leaders must remember that their choices are not only observed in the grand halls of international summits but also in the hearts and minds of the people they lead. It's time to choose a path that honors the past, respects the present, and paves the way for a future where Africa's voice is heard and celebrated on its own terms. However, what went wrong at the summit? Before we delve into that, let's take a step back and examine how African leaders have become dependent and how their actions can ignite an entire continent's diversity. In May 2023, Kenyan President William Ruto, known for his outspoken nature, made a surprising move that left many puzzled. He took a strong stance against the mistreatment of African leaders during their visits to Europe. He challenged the lack of VIP treatment and questioned the significance of these high-profile engagements beyond mere photo opportunities. Ruto's bold mention of the disrespectful treatment African leaders endure garnered attention. He vividly described a real incident where leaders, including himself, were herded into buses like children during Queen Elizabeth II's state funeral in the UK. This unexpected action revealed the less glamorous aspect of diplomatic visits, reflecting the skepticism felt by many Africans regarding the value of such trips. Ruto's declaration of "enough is enough" wasn't just a defense of himself, it resonated as a show of solidarity for every African leader facing disrespect on foreign soil. This surprising stance created shockwaves in diplomatic circles, sparking discussions about how African leaders are treated during international engagements. However, lurking in the background is a contradiction. Ruto, known for his assertive and strong-willed behavior, has now made a U-turn, willingly accepting the disrespect experienced by African leaders. Is this a newfound softer side of Ruto or a strategic move in the realm of diplomacy? Only time will reveal the true intentions. What is certain is that Ruto's bold stand highlights the contradictions that can exist within political figures.
We are mistreated.
Yeah.
We are loaded into buses like school kids. And it's not right.
What?
Ruto's contradiction is a matter that demands attention, reminding us that leaders, like all of us, possess layers that can surprise even the most observant individuals. As this puzzle unfolds, one thing becomes clear: Ruto has initiated a conversation that has the potential to reshape how African leaders are treated on the global stage. While other African leaders also face disrespect, Ruto faces criticism because he was the one who initially spoke out against it. But before we delve into what happened to the leaders this time, let's first understand what Ruto demanded in the past. This will help us grasp what compromises he made this time around. William Ruto is not one to tiptoe around issues, making it clear that African leaders, who have been duly chosen by their people, deserve a seat at the table with the same respect as their global counterparts. Ruto's call for a shake-up in power dynamics was not solely about securing comfortable chairs on diplomatic planes but a plea for dignity. Instead of African leaders constantly traveling long distances to meet their foreign counterparts, he proposed a fresh idea: let them come to Africa for a change. It's a straightforward demand: equal respect for leaders. Ruto's words struck a chord when he highlighted the struggles faced by African leaders at international summits.
It's not intelligent for 54 of us to go and sit before one gentleman from another place. And
it's not just about fancy dinners and photo ops, it's about the challenge of securing individual meetings with foreign counterparts. African leaders often find themselves struggling to get face time in a chaotic diplomatic environment, much like school kids during official visits. This comparison emphasizes that despite their titles and prestigious positions, African leaders are often sidelined, with their voices drowned out in the noise of global politics. Imagine a scenario where every leader, regardless of their nationality, is given the opportunity to have a one-on-one conversation. It's not just a matter of courtesy, it's a recognition of the agency and autonomy that each leader brings to the table. Ruto's call serves as a reminder that diplomacy shouldn't be a one-size-fits-all affair. His proposal breathes fresh air into the often rigid rooms of international politics. It challenges the status quo and calls for a more balanced and respectful approach to engagements. It's not about assigning blame or pointing fingers, it's about acknowledging that every leader deserves a fair chance at meaningful discussions, regardless of where they come from. However, Ruto's U-turn at the Italy-Africa Summit 2024 has left many in Kenya puzzled and disappointed. As a leader known for his outspoken nature, Ruto's presence at the summit, which he had previously criticized, has sparked criticism and disillusionment among Kenyans who initially supported his stance. It feels like a sudden change in the script, leaving the audience questioning the consistency of the lead actor. This time, the leaders were once again herded into buses and treated the same, but Ruto didn't enter the room without explanation. He defended his presence at the summit as a nod to diplomacy, expressing gratitude to the Italian government for hosting the event. This move elicits mixed feelings, as it acknowledges the host's effort but also seems to dilute the earlier call for a shift in power dynamics. The contradiction between Ruto's strong words and subsequent actions has raised doubts about whether African leaders can stay true to their convictions on the global stage. Attending a summit is not just about the event itself, it sends a message to those who supported Ruto's initial stance. The plot of this story makes you question the plot itself. Ruto's defense may not be enough to silence the critics. The disappointment expressed by Kenyans serves as a reminder that actions speak louder than words. It's not just about being grateful for the invitation, it's about upholding the principles that sparked the initial outcry against mistreatment. U-turns are not uncommon in politics, but they come at a cost, often affecting credibility. The Italy-Africa Summit saga prompts us to reflect on the complexities that leaders face when navigating diplomatic protocols and the expectations of their constituents. As the dust settles on this apparent contradiction, one can't help but wonder if Ruto's about-face is a strategic move in the larger diplomatic game. Is there a bigger plan at play, or did the allure of the summit spotlight overshadow the earlier enthusiasm? Whatever the case may be, Ruto's U-turn at the Italy-Africa Summit serves as a cautionary tale for leaders navigating the unpredictable waters of diplomacy. It's a reminder that the world is watching, and consistency is the current that builds trust. As African leaders continue their presence on the international stage, the spotlight will persist, shedding light on every step and misstep in the delicate choreography of global politics. The recent change in William Ruto's stance sheds light on a larger problem within African leadership. It's a familiar story where leaders express concerns about mistreatment and exploitation, only to act differently. This inconsistency is not isolated to one leader. It reflects a broader issue that has disillusioned citizens. Ruto's flip-flop at the Italy-Africa Summit is not an isolated incident. It reveals a deeper problem affecting African leadership. The contradiction between speaking up against mistreatment and then attending criticized summits compromises integrity and is disheartening for citizens. It's not just disappointment in one leader, it's a pattern that repeats itself, leaving citizens questioning the authenticity of their representatives. The inconsistency between words and actions sends a clear message: personal gains trump collective interests. African citizens yearn for leaders who are committed to the continent's well-being but find themselves questioning the authenticity of their representatives. Compromising integrity erodes the trust that should bind leaders and citizens in a shared vision for a better Africa. Ruto's U-turn at the Italy-Africa Summit highlights how personal ambitions can overshadow the principles leaders claim to uphold. It's a delicate balancing act where personal gains threaten to outweigh the collective aspirations of the continent. As citizens witness these inconsistencies, the call for transparency and accountability grows louder. Compromising integrity is disappointing for those who had hoped for a different narrative, one where leaders prioritize the greater good over individual accolades. It's not just about Ruto, it's a systemic issue that needs to be addressed. African leaders must recognize that their actions have far-reaching consequences beyond diplomatic circles. Compromising integrity erodes the foundation of trust between leaders and the people they serve, creating a divide. Rebuilding trust requires consistency and a genuine commitment to the collective interests of the continent. As African leaders navigate the complexities of global politics, any compromise on integrity will be exposed by the spotlight. They must choose between personal gains and the collective prosperity of a continent yearning for leaders with unwavering integrity. However, this does not mean that the exploitation and mistreatment of Africans will continue unabated. There is an ongoing pattern of external exploitation by governments, international organizations, and multinational corporations. External entities profit from Africa's abundant resources while pursuing their own agendas. African leaders find themselves divided, unable to unite against external exploitation. The cycle repeats, with external actors benefiting from Africa's resources while African leaders struggle to catch up. While external actors strategize and collaborate to advance their interests, African leaders seem to be focused on their individual pursuits, leaving collective efforts neglected. This perpetuates the cycle of exploitation. Africa's resources, whether minerals, agricultural abundance, or technological potential, become playgrounds for external forces. The profits flow outward, leaving the continent feeling absent and disenchanted. There is a need for unity among African nations to combat external exploitation, but the response has been muted. When African nations are not united, external actors take advantage and negotiate deals that often leave African countries at a disadvantage. The blame for external exploitation doesn't solely lie with external actors but also points to African leaders. It's crucial for African leaders to recognize that unity is not a luxury but a necessity. It serves as a shield against external forces that seek to exploit the vulnerabilities of the continent. As the world changes, Africa must adapt its approach. The call for a coordinated strategy is not just a request, it's a demand for a shift in power dynamics. It's an opportunity for African leaders to change the narrative, where exploitation becomes a thing of the past rather than a recurring theme in the present. The ongoing pattern of external exploitation should be a catalyst for action, heard in every negotiation room and international forum. It's time for African leaders to let go of divisions and embrace a united front. Only when the continent is united can it reclaim its narrative and ensure that its abundant resources become a driver of prosperity rather than an invitation for external exploitation. After the criticism following the Italy-Africa summit, African leaders now face a crucial decision as they approach upcoming global engagements such as the Turkey, India, Russia, China, France, Saudi Arabia, and US-Africa summits. Will they continue prioritizing attendance at these events, or will they take the opportunity to invite foreign leaders to Africa and change the dynamic? The fallout from the Italy-Africa summit serves as a warning, urging leaders to reassess their approach on the international stage. Criticism faced by figures like William Ruto demonstrates the delicate balance between diplomacy and standing firm on principles. As leaders prepare for future engagements, the expectations of their constituents and the global community grow. The Turkey-Africa Summit provides a chance for African leaders to demonstrate unity and learn from past experiences. Will they merely attend or seize the opportunity to gain attention and shift power dynamics? The India, Russia, and China-Africa summits present unique stages for African leaders to redefine their role in the global narrative. It's not just about participation, it's about leveraging these platforms to assert agency and reshape the conversation. The France-Africa Summit carries historical ties and contemporary challenges. Will African leaders use this occasion to foster collaboration on equal terms, moving away from the shadows of the past? The real test lies in whether African leaders will break free from the routine of perpetual attendance. The call for a shift in power dynamics is not just a slogan, it demands action. It invites African leaders to transform these gatherings into two-way streets, where Africa is not just a passive participant but an active host, shaping the agenda and setting the tone. Future challenges and summits beckon African leaders to transcend the status quo. It's about more than just being present, it's about making a lasting impact beyond the summit halls. Should African leaders tolerate mistreatment? Why is there a lack of outspokenness? What will happen to the goal of African empowerment? Share your thoughts in the comments section. If you want to watch more videos like this one, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell. We are dedicated to bringing you videos on topics rarely discussed, such as Black culture, civilization, and the glorious history of Black people. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for our next videos.